There is a moment nobody prepares you for. Not the moment you start, not the moment you dream, not even the moment you fail. It is the moment when you are standing in the middle of everything you once wanted. And suddenly you don't want it anymore. You stare at the unfinished work. You look at the empty bank account. You think about how long you've been trying, and a quiet voice inside your head says, "Enough, just quit." And here's what makes that voice dangerous. It doesn't always sound negative. Sometimes it sounds reasonable. Take a break. You've already tried. Maybe this isn't meant for you. Other people are ahead of you. Why keep pushing when nothing is changing? And because the voice sounds logical, you believe it. But what if that voice isn't telling you the truth? What if you're not actually ready to quit? What if you're simply exhausted? What if you're not failing? What if you're standing in the most uncomfortable part of growth? And what if the decision you make in that exact moment quietly determines the person you become? Stay with me, because I'm going to show you what to do when your own mind starts telling you to walk away. And the answer isn't simply work harder. It's much more powerful than that. A few years ago, imagine a man sitting alone in his car after work. His name doesn't matter, because his story could be yours. He had spent months trying to change his life. He was working during the day, learning at night, trying to build something that he believed could eventually give him more freedom, but nothing seemed to work. One project failed, then another. Someone he respected told him he was wasting his time. A friend stopped asking about his progress, and eventually even his own family started wondering whether he should move on. That night, he sat in his driveway with the engine turned off. The house was only a few steps away, but he couldn't get out of the car. He looked at his phone, another disappointing result. He whispered, "Maybe they're right." He wasn't lazy, he wasn't incapable. He was simply tired of fighting a battle where he couldn't see the finish line, and that's when the thought came, quit. He almost did. But before getting out of the car, he asked himself one question. If I quit tonight, am I making a decision, or am I just trying to escape today's pain? That question stopped him because he realized something. He didn't necessarily hate the dream. He hated how difficult the journey felt that night. And those are two completely different things. Think about how different life looks when you're tired. A small problem becomes huge. A normal setback feels personal. A delay feels like failure. And a difficult week suddenly feels like your entire life is going nowhere. That's why one of the most important Stoic principles is learning to create space between what happens and how you respond. You don't have to obey every thought that enters your mind. Your mind can say, "I can't do this anymore." And you can answer, "Maybe I don't need to do everything today." That's different. Instead of quitting the entire mission, pause, sleep, take a walk, clear your head, come back tomorrow. Because sometimes the solution isn't to abandon the road. It's simply to stop walking for a moment. They think they need motivation before they can continue. They wait to feel inspired. They wait for confidence. They wait for the perfect morning when everything suddenly feels easy. But that morning rarely comes. The people who accomplish difficult things aren't always the most motivated. They're often the people who learned how to move without motivation. Think about going to the gym. There are days when you feel strong. There are days when you don't want to go. But if you only exercise when you feel motivated, your progress will always depend on your mood. Life works the same way. You don't need to feel unstoppable. You need to become dependable. Dependable to your own commitments. That is real discipline. But now, ask yourself something uncomfortable. What if the problem isn't that you want to quit? What if the problem is that you're carrying too much? Maybe you're trying to fix your finances, improve your health, build a career, maintain relationships, learn new skills, and completely transform your life. All at the same time. No wonder your mind says, "I can't do this." Maybe it isn't asking you to quit. Maybe it's asking you to simplify. So here's what you do. Forget the next 5 years. Forget the entire mountain. Ask, what is the next useful step? That's it. Not 20 steps. 1. Send the email, make the call, read 10 pages, take the walk, finish the assignment, apply for the opportunity, have the conversation, then stop. Tomorrow, take another step. You don't need to carry your entire future on your shoulders today. Most people ask, how long until I succeed? That's a dangerous question, because sometimes the answer is unknown. Instead, ask, what can I control today? That question brings your power back. You can't control whether people recognize you. You can't control how quickly opportunities appear. You can't control whether someone chooses you. You can't control yesterday. You can't control tomorrow. But you can control today's effort, today's attitude, today's discipline, today's decision. And when you repeatedly focus on what you can control, something changes. You stop feeling like life is happening to you. You start becoming someone who responds to life deliberately. That is where resilience begins. There may be a day when you are only one decision away from giving up on something that would have eventually changed your life. You won't know it's that day. That's the frightening part. There won't be a sign. There won't be music playing in the background. Nobody will call you and say, "Don't quit today. You're almost there." You'll simply have to decide. That's why you cannot measure your future based on today's emotions. You don't know what tomorrow can bring. You don't know who you can become in 6 months. You don't know what opportunity is waiting around the corner. You don't know how much stronger you can become through another year of consistent effort. So don't destroy tomorrow because today was difficult. This matters. Sometimes quitting is actually the right decision. If a goal no longer reflects your values, if you're pursuing something only to impress people, if your direction is clearly wrong, you are allowed to change direction. Stoicism isn't about blindly suffering, it's about seeing reality clearly. There is a difference between, "This is difficult, so I'll quit," and "I've learned something important, so I'll adjust my path." One comes from temporary frustration, the other comes from wisdom. The goal isn't to remain on the same road forever. The goal is to become wise enough to know when to continue and when to change direction. There was a version of you who believed this was worth trying. Maybe you wanted to prove something to yourself. Maybe you wanted a better life. Maybe you wanted to become financially independent. Maybe you wanted to become healthier. Maybe you simply wanted to wake up one morning and finally respect the person looking back at you in the mirror. Remember that person, not because you need to live in the past, but because sometimes your original reason is stronger than your current emotion. Write it down. Literally. One sentence. I am doing this because. Then finish the sentence honestly. Keep it somewhere you can see it. Because when motivation disappears, clarity can keep you moving. Here's something simple you can use the next time your mind says, "I'm done." Don't promise yourself forever. Promise yourself one more day. Say, "I don't have to figure out my entire life tonight. I'll give myself until tomorrow." Tomorrow comes, then make the same decision again. One day, one step, one effort, one conversation, one opportunity, one more attempt. That's how enormous changes often happen. Not through one dramatic moment, but through hundreds of ordinary moments where nobody was watching. And eventually something strange happens. You become stronger than the problem that once made you want to quit. The same situation that once overwhelmed you becomes manageable. The same criticism that once destroyed your confidence becomes background noise. The same uncertainty that once frightened you becomes something you can tolerate. Not because life became easier, because you became stronger. And that's the real victory, not getting a life without obstacles. Building a mind that doesn't collapse every time an obstacle appears. So the next time you're alone at night, when the work isn't finished, when the results aren't coming, when everyone seems ahead, when your confidence is low, and that quiet voice says, "Quit." Don't panic. Don't argue with yourself for an hour. Don't make a permanent decision in a temporary emotional state. Take a breath. Ask yourself, am I truly finished or am I simply tired? If you're tired, rest. If you're overwhelmed, simplify. If you're confused, pause. If you've learned that the direction is wrong, adjust. But if the goal still matters, if the reason is still real, if deep down you still want to become that person, then take one more step. Not because you're guaranteed success, not because the journey will suddenly become easy, but because you refuse to let one difficult moment decide your entire future. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that obstacles are not simply interruptions to life. They are opportunities to practice the qualities we claim to value: patience, courage, discipline, self-control, resilience. So perhaps the moment when your mind says quit isn't the moment you should be ashamed of. Perhaps it's the moment you get to discover who you really are, because anyone can continue when everything is going well. The real test comes when nobody is cheering, when progress is invisible, when you're tired, when you're uncertain, when quitting would be easier, and you quietly choose to continue. That's where character is built. That's where the stronger version of you begins. So tonight, if you're standing at that crossroads, remember this. You don't need to conquer your entire future today. You only need to protect your next decision. Take the next step, then another, and if tomorrow feels difficult, take another. One day you'll look back and realize that the person you became was built during all those ordinary days when you felt like giving up, but didn't. Your mind may say, quit. Listen carefully, then answer, not yet. Because sometimes the life you're waiting for is on the other side of the moment you almost walked away. And sometimes the strongest version of you is only one more step away.